Hello third graders. I am going to show you drawing a natural object using drawing pencils. On the screen you will see 5 drawing pencils with numbers and letters on them. The top one has a 2H. This is the 2H, the HB, you can see it says right across, the 2B, the 4B, and the 6B, and the numbers and letters are right here. The 2H is the hardest, I think of the H standing for hard, the hardest of the pencils, and I wrote this 2H with that pencil, and you can see how it is a little bit lighter, a little bit thinner, and it does not smudge. That's a 2H pencil. It will not smudge. It is a hard pencil. It is really great for drawing lines. It's great for if you don't want something to smudge, maybe your initial sketch of your drawing. The next one is an HB, and the HB is actually what you use in the classroom. It's your classic number 2 pencil. It's a little bit darker, and it also doesn't smudge because you don't want your schoolwork smudging, right? The next one is a 2B, and that's going to get a little bit softer, and look at that. You can see, I don't know if you can see it, but can you see that little bit of smudge there? It's going to smudge a little bit and give you some lighter shadows and some darker lines. And then here's the 4B, and it looks about the same darkness and lines, but you're going to notice that it's going to even smudge a little bit more. And then the 6B, and the 6B can get really smudgy. It might be that I did this a little bit too long ago. So, but the 6B is really going to smudge up good and get you some good shadows and some really dark lines if you color with it. So that's how the drawing pencils work. We have something over here called a blending stump, and actually that should even help me smear this more. It works a lot better, to tell you the truth, than your finger, and you're going to actually see how it kind of, well, it got a little dirty, but how it goes from dark to light with the blending stump. If the stump gets dirty, some of that will come off on your paper, and you can actually use that if you want to as a drawing tool as well. So you guys will get 3 pencils, probably a hard one of these in the middle, and then a dark one, and you'll be able to practice this drawing with it. So I'm going to start with the 2H. And remember, when we were drawing our natural objects, we are starting with the shapes. And I'm going to draw a little harder than I might want to so that you could see it. But I'm going to start with kind of that triangle shape, and then I'm going to kind of do that half moon, half circle kind of shape that, and I have been, oops, see, I messed that up a little. There we go. And I'm not going to worry about it, but this little line, I'm going to erase that later on. So these are my searching lines, and they're not, I might not get it just perfect right away. And that's okay. Searching lines kind of tell how you arrived at the drawing of that object. Okay, so there's my shapes. I've got 2 triangles, I've got 2 kind of half circles, one that has a wavy edge. And now I can go back and I can start doing some of my contour lines. And I'm going to look carefully. Now remember, contour lines are lines that curve. So even if I'm trying to do some sort of texture, I want to make sure that line is curving and it is not straight. So I'm sort of changing some of the lines now. And I'm not even really worrying too much about erasing the ones that don't work. I'm more concentrating on drawing the ones that do work. And these are the lines that's showing how this shell is kind of curving and fanning out. And I notice this line is a little darker. I can at this point start making lines a little bit darker if they are, but remember I'm still using a pretty hard pencil, so I think I'm going to switch now to a softer pencil, and you will see how some of that, and I'm just going to do these contour lines here, you'll see how some of that smears and creates its own shadows. Okay, so there's just some contour lines. I'm going to start going down now with the HB, and I'm going to start putting in the lines a little bit more, and maybe even coloring some, and trying to find the darks. So one of the things I do is I squint when I can't find something. So if you can't find the darks or the lights, you can kind of squint at that object, and that's going to help you start to find them. And it takes a while to build up a drawing. And I think I'm going to go over some of these lines because I'm going to want them to, I need a darker pencil though, I know that. So I'm going to go down to my 2B now. Some of these shadows just behind here are going to be a little bit lighter. And there's a little bit of a shadow on here and on here that are going to be a little bit lighter. And then I'm going to start, I can make some of these lines again thicker. Look how I'm using the edge of my pencil, side of my pencil. Some of the lines I keep thin, and some of them I put in a little bit more. And I'm going to keep working down, and I'm going to keep squinting and working down through these pencils so you can just kind of see this one is much darker. And watch in the end, what you're going to see essentially is how magical these pencils are when I use my blending stump. I kind of haven't gotten to that part yet. Alright, I'm going to put these in a little bit darker because that part of the shell is a little bit darker. And then this is my very darkest pencil, and if I squint, I'm just going to use that sparingly in some of the darker areas. And then I'm going to take my blending stump, and this is hopefully where you can see how magical the pencils can be, because they really can give you some different values, and they really start to make the object look three-dimensional. Now if you get too dark, let's say I go over all this and in the end it's like, oh, I have no white left on my paper, and I want to go back in and find those really light areas, then you can use your eraser and you can erase out any of the darker areas. So you can erase out any of the lighter areas and make them lighter, and make it almost look like there's a light shining on that spot. So you can see it's pretty magical how those pencils work. I want a little bit more separation here because there's some overlapping here. So I'm going to go back in with my darkest pencil and then come back in with my blender and try and get a little bit more separation between those two shapes. Something like that.